Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
Garcia, what's happening, folks? Sam Healy.
Now I'm excited, and yet at the same time, this is going to be a very different review than we normally do.
Yep.
And that's because today we're taking a look at Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
What?
The only copy in the continental United States.
Well, that we know of, I'm sure. Anyhow, we were very excited to play this. This is a version of Pandemic that's been a very popular game, a cooperative game about stopping diseases, but it's Legacy, which comes from a game called Risk Legacy, where in Risk Legacy, you cut cards, you put stickers on the boards, you open packages.
The game evolved basically over many plays to become its own beast, and your copy of Risk Legacy, just like Pandemic Legacy, would evolve in a way that no one else's copy would.
Now, we're going to do 2 reviews of Pandemic Legacy. And actually, we're doing 3 things with Pandemic Legacy. 1, we're recording all of our games, and those are going to be chock full of spoilers. And we're going to post those much later on, but we're going to obviously make them clear that they're spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about the game, and you probably shouldn't, don't watch those. But maybe once you play it, you kind of want to compare your experiences to ours. That's what I would use those for.
Right.
We're also reviewing the game now. We've played the game 6 times, which has been eventful.
I agree. Very much so.
6 games has been eventful. In fact, 6 was like the turning point of we're like really wondering what's going to come next. But we're also going to review the game later on down the road once we finished it or played through. All we know is that the game takes place, and again, we're not going to spoil this in this review, but we will talk a little bit about the game. So if you don't want to know anything, but this is stuff that's mostly widely available.
Right.
The game takes place over the course of a year. You play from January to December. Each month, you play a game of this, and if you win the game, you go to the next month, February. If you lose, then you play that month again. If you lose or win the second time, it doesn't matter, you go to the next month.
Right, so you are basically playing the game anywhere between 12 and 24 times.
So we have currently lost 3 times and won 3 times. We are in month 4 because we lost the first month, then won. So we went to month 2, where we won immediately, went to month 3, and then lost and then won. And then we've lost in month 4. And we had 1 loss, which we should have won.
It was a
squeaker.
Absolutely. Oh, man.
We lost at the absolute possible last moment, which for Pandemic players out there, that is not uncommon. It happens sometimes. So this game will give you that same tension at the end of games. And again, we lost, but it was oof.
But we were literally high-fiving each other on our victory.
Yep.
And then we
5
lost.
seconds before. Then 1 flip of the card, and did we just lose? Yes, we did.
All right, so some background. Again, it's just like Pandemic. If you've ever played the game Pandemic, Pandemic Legacy starts out by being mostly Pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, there are changes to that, and again, we can't spoil them too much, but you are going to have characters in this game who are going around trying to stop diseases from destroying Earth. The components in this game are very comparable to those that came in the original Pandemic, at least the ones that match.
Right. Yes. It's pretty, the board looks very similar, the pawns are similar, cubes are similar, all of that stuff is, even the graphic design is largely the same.
Yeah.
But what makes this game interesting is there's this thing called a legacy deck. And this legacy deck controls the game. And you will draw cards from this legacy deck until it tells you to stop drawing cards. And these cards will add stickers to things. They will fill holes in the rules. There's like a whole page in the rules that's missing. And there's broken spots everywhere.
Silhouetted boxes that are where stickers are going to be placed. A whole page of that.
Right.
And then there's stickers that might go on the board. There's things that are put together. There may be destruction. There are also in the box several packages in the box that can be opened and put out. There are cards that somehow come into the game. And so the game changes. At first, it feels that to me, I don't know about you guys, but it's like changing.
Yeah.
Is that how it
Right,
feels to
right.
you?
Like baby step, baby step, baby step. Wham!
And I expect that by the time we get to game 12, it's going to be a completely different game than the original game.
Right. I
Very
mean,
much so.
and don't get us wrong. In the first game, already you are exploring new things. You are already looking at secret stuff. In the very first game, you just start like Pandemic, but about halfway through that game, there's already going to be changes to material in the game.
Yeah.
So there are some things that we can talk about without spoiling the game, and there are some interesting factors. Your win and losing the game, that affects the next game dramatically.
Right. This is one thing that's already been, this information is out there, and it has to do with the funding that you as a team get from the government as you combat these diseases. And again, this is not a spoiler because it's been put out there by the designers, but basically if you win a game, or if you lose, rather, that's a more interesting scenario. If you lose a game, then the governments of the world will panic and give you more funding, and that basically translates into you having some more stuff during the upcoming game. However, by that same token, if you are doing well and win, they're going to put that funding somewhere else, and you are going to lose some resources for your next game, which is an interesting catch-up mechanism. It's this, there's this, tug and push and pull happening where you hope to do well, you want to win, and if you win, then the game gets a little bit harder next time.
Really feels good though when you win on less funding.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It really feels good.
And if your team is amazing, then hopefully you can coast on that. But again, it's an interesting play on that, because if you get smacked around, then you get some more stuff to help you come back.
Yep.
At this point in time for me, I am really loving the experience. We just played 6 games, and I don't play 6 games in a row of anything, ever.
Right.
Especially ones that take all day. Each game for us took a little over an hour, right? We started playing at 9. Yeah, we played.
With all the extra reading and that you have to do for the new rules.
But everyone's going to do that, I think,
Yeah.
and that's fun because it kind of gives it to you. And I felt that over those 6 games, there was a progression of story in the game.
Yep.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
felt like something was happening, and I'll tell you what, I mean, it was going a little bit by little bit, but in game 6, it got real.
Well, one big thing that I think...
Also, I hate the designers.
One big thing that the game brings to the table, which Pandemic had somewhat, but this game really has in spades, is a cinematic feel. And the fact that you are playing over a year really helps tell that story.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and it's very cinematic. You are going to be developing stories around your plays of this game, just like we are now.
Yep.
There are things we keep saying about places on the board. There's going to be interest and storytelling that will come out of the design, and the fact that it's over a year will help that, and things going well, things going badly will help that. So it's very cinematic, really engaging story. As soon as you finish one game, you want to start the next one because you want to see what's going to happen. What's the next chapter of this great novel or this great movie going to feature?
Now, this brings us to a point that, I mean, a lot of people are going to wonder about. And honestly, we can't even answer this till the game is over.
Right.
I don't know what happens at the end of the December turns. I don't know if the game ends or what. But the way I'm feeling right now, I feel like you'd get your money's worth if that's all the game was. Mm-hmm. The game is a minimum of 12 games, which I don't think that's possible. I really don't. Right. I don't think you could win once every month. Yeah, after you played it through like 6 sets.
I'm gonna do it. I know what's coming now.
Because we played 6 games, and we have May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So we have a minimum of... No, we still haven't finished April yet, have we?
Nope.
So we have a minimum of 9 more games plus those, or 10 more games plus those 6. Mm-hmm. So we're at a minimum of 16 games already.
Right.
Right. And it's a good chance we'll lose more as time goes by. And in fact, one of the packages in the box, you open it after you lose several times in a row, which I thought was funny, and I kind of want to open it, but I kind of hope we never have to.
Right. I want to win.
I feel like we're getting better at Pandemic, though. By the time we're done with this, I'm like, I'll go back to regular Pandemic. I'll just take that stuff out.
Put in 7 of those epidemic cards.
But anyhow, I think that if you did play that many games, you get your money's worth. Let's say the game costs $60. That's $15 a person, or if you're playing with 3 people, $20 a person for, let's say, 15 games. We'll go minimum. 15 games. You're getting 15 plus hours of entertainment for each person. You cannot get that anywhere else. And yes, you can argue and say, I want this game to last forever. And maybe it does. But...
Because you play it once a year.
Yeah. So I feel like even though it may end after that many games, I will be completely satisfied.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing, I mean, I could even play through it again, I guess, get another set. They make the box in blue and red. Although I don't know if I would do something like that. Would you?
Well, I intend to play this again.
With like a different group of people?
With a different group, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. You'll have to let us know how that second playthrough goes.
I will. But yeah, I think it's... I think that's valid.
And that it'll spoil it. I mean, it would be a little bit less, ooh, this is what's going to happen.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But it would be such a different, everybody else I'm hoping will enjoy this feeling I'm getting playing it the first time. But it's ultimately still pandemic.
Yeah, you would kind
right?
of
I mean,
quarterback of that group. You know kind of what's coming up, but they don't.
Well, yeah, but he can't say things.
But I wouldn't spoil it.
No, you wouldn't say anything until it actually happens.
Right, but ultimately, it's like I'm playing a variant of Pandemic.
Right.
And I really like Pandemic, so it's not... I think knowing what's coming isn't going to destroy the experience for me. If it was a more frail game, perhaps. Right. But this is such a strong... It's based on such a strong game anyway. It's fine. I can play through these... 15 to 24 games a bunch of times and I wouldn't get sick of it. You know what I mean? Because it's like watching a great movie or reading a good book. Same idea,
I hope that you're not frustrated watching us saying, they're not showing us anything or doing anything, but that's better for you, really, right? There's so much here that we could show you, maybe a few things. You could see some characters in the game. There's some things in the rules that maybe when we do our final thoughts, we'll kind of tell a little bit more about what happens there. I mean, people can die in this game.
Right.
What else can I say that's not too much of a spoiler? But I'll tell you
we can talk about this again. These are things I've read online that I knew going into this game, so I know it's out there from the designers. Characters can die, yes. They get upgraded. We know that. We know that cities will increase in their panic. That's been out there. I've read that online. So again, I feel okay to say that because if you are that hyped about this game, like I've been, you've found this information. But again, the cities can escalate and they become harder to deal with. The cities, in panic, it's harder to go in there. It's harder to deal with them.
But it is interesting because there's a lot of things you're like, oh, it's harder to do this, it's harder to do that, harder to do that. But there's also, oh, now we're good at this, now we're good at that.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's done a really good job at balancing that.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, yeah, and then something like, oh, well, good thing we have these extra tools now.
Right.
And it also feels like a puzzle that we're working together to solve. So I have to say, folks, I'm just excited about this. I'm currently giving this 2 huge thumbs up. I like Pandemic, not as much as Z does. I don't even think I like it as much as Sam does, but I like it a lot. But when you add the legacy aspect, I'm through the roof. Because today was one of the most fun gaming days I've had in a really long time. And it was because we played a game together. We have great stories to tell about it someday. And it was like an event from bam, bam, bam as we went along. Right. And it was just so exciting. And if it wasn't for time purposes only, I'd play it again.
Yeah.
I would play it right now.
We'd keep going.
That's how much I like it,
Absolutely. I agree with you. Again, regular Pandemic is my favorite game of all time. Is this game better than that game?
Yes.
I don't know, because they're such different beasts, ultimately. They kind of start at the same place, and they are really, ultimately, very different, games. But it is an amazing experience, and again, I keep going back to this word, I know, but it is such a cinematic, engaging experience. So for me, 2 thumbs way up.
Yeah, there's no abstraction here. That is for sure.
I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up as well, and the reason I'm giving it 2 thumbs up is because of that overarching theme that it has. I just love it when games provide a context between from one game to the next, and then another context after that, and it just keeps continuing to build. It really feels like you're part of a TV show or a series of movies, as Z has said. It really feels like this. Like your characters are the star roles in some movie summer blockbuster. And I love it when, there was parts in the game where I was using the theme to help explain some of the mechanics. We were having trouble wrapping our heads around it. I love it when the theme is so integrated into a game that you can use the theme to help people understand the mechanic. I love that. So, 2 thumbs way up.
All right, and now real quick before we end this, what are your thoughts comparing this? We talked about this compared to Pandemic. What are your thoughts about this compared to Risk Legacy? There's obviously a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of similarities. You're opening packs, finding new pieces, stickers, rules changing.
Well, I will say one thing, and this is Risk Legacy compared to Risk. Right off the bat, they're much more different. I think Pandemic Legacy compared to Pandemic is a much slower burn. That's not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Because Pandemic is already such an amazing game, right? I mean, if you're getting Pandemic Legacy, you don't want it to start off the bat and be like a completely different game, which is what a lot of people were hoping for when you say Risk Legacy. You want it to be pretty different unless you are a big Risk fan, but eventually it gets there, and it does so. As we were talking about a little earlier, there's a couple of skips and jumps, but then every now and then it goes, oh, by the way, and it kind of drops some big news on you. I like that a lot. But it has sort of a slower burn.
I don't want to actually compare Pandemic Legacy to Risk Legacy because I think they're actually 2 different games.
They are different games, but they both have a legacy feel to them.
Right, but one is a confrontational game and the other one is a cooperative game. And I think to compare those 2 would be doing both of them a disservice. I actually like the way this Legacy game plays better than the Risk Legacy game because I thought there were some loopholes in the Risk Legacy. I'm not seeing any loopholes here. I'm not seeing any gaps in the whole Legacy scheme like I saw in Risk. I'm not seeing that here. So I think this is a better implementation of the Legacy system than was Risk Legacy. I just don't... I think this provides a better storyline, story arc, a better feel of camaraderie than Risk Legacy did. Because in Risk Legacy, you're fighting against each other. So there's a story of, I remember when I kicked your tail. But this one is more, remember when we did this, when this happened to us and we overcame that. And so with Pandemic Legacy, I think this is a more natural implementation of that system.
All right, well, we will come back real quick. I'll add on to what Z said in that regard, is I like both Risk Legacy a lot. It's in my top 100, and Pandemic Legacy. But Risk Legacy, I never liked Risk, really at all. Yeah. So it's built on a more flawed system, in my opinion.
Right.
I like Pandemic, so it's built on a game that's actually really good.
Right. Yeah.
And that it can only go well. And you can tell as we put this together, I'm like, wow, they knew what they were doing. These aren't just random packets we're opening.
Right.
It's done for a purpose, and it's really cool.
It was like people writing a script for a show.
Right. So give us a couple weeks, and we'll come back with a review after we play through the entire game. Hopefully we will come through victorious.
We shall.
I don't know what happens at the end.
We will.
But either way, guys, seriously, honestly, I could say I think almost everybody should try this. That's how strongly I feel about it. If you like Pandemic, get it. If you like cooperative games, get it. If you think I know some people are going bonkers about the Legacy thing. Get over it. It's worth it.
I mean, even if you just want something really different, get it.
Yeah.
Because this
certainly
system,
in running for best game of the year. Certainly up there.
I agree.
All right.
I concur as well.
Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thank you, folks.
We shall overcome.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.